Hello, I'm Jim Owens, and I'm the Shelby and Mustang Marketing Manager for Ford Motor Company, and we're here today at the Shelby GT500 Media Drive. We're getting an opportunity to actually drive on track, left and right on the road course, as well as doing quarter-mile hole shots today. In the morning, everybody got a chance to drive up to Mount Charleston that has about a 5,000-foot elevation change off the valley floor, where you get to do switchbacks and enjoy the road performance of this outstanding 2020 Shelby GT500.
And indeed, it is a very well-rounded vehicle. It does everything well. Quarter-mile straight line, the handling both on street and on a racetrack.
Yes, and what the men and women of Ford Performance have engineered into this vehicle is the opportunity for you to develop as a driver. So if you're taking it out on the switchback roads up to Mount Charleston, you feel confident in hitting that accelerator. Then also the brakes and the suspension with MagneRide allow you to take those corners at a very, very fun pace, of course, following all the legal speed limits. And then when you come out to the racetrack, what it allows you to do is grow and feel that 760 horsepower, but feel confident enough with those more than 16.5-inch calipers with the Brembo, or rotors with the Brembo calipers on it, so that you could stop at the end of the straightaway.
Give us some more numbers. Okay, we heard 760 horsepower. I believe it's the 5.2 liter V8.
Yep, so this is a 5.2 liter Eaton supercharged cross-plane crank V8 that produces that 760 horsepower. So that Eaton supercharger that's on there, if you think about it, our high-performance package Mustang EcoBoost is 2.3 liters. The Eaton supercharger that is on top of our 5.2 liter engine has 2.65 liters. So you have bigger capacity liter-wise in your supercharger than we have on our four-cylinder Mustang that produces 332 horsepower and 350 foot-pounds of torque all on its own. That Eaton-based supercharger that was worked on with the Ford Performance engineers and the men and women from Eaton has helped us develop with the boost that 760 horsepower. So if you think about it, when you line up at a drag strip and you got a chance, Joaquin, to go in there and do the line lock where you got to spin and burn the tires and warm them up, then you pulled up to the staging area with the launch control. You set your RPM for the launch control out there, and then what you will get is you will feel that 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds. And of course, that quarter-mile time of 10.7. I know you were running it today. What did you run, Joaquin?
Okay, let me make clear, old as I am, this was my first time ever on a drag strip.
So first time ever on a drag strip on a 760 horsepower car, and what did you turn?
Thanks to the car's magic engineering, I managed, let me see, what was it, 11.2 something seconds at 128 miles per hour.
So think about this for a second. Not only because of Joaquin's great driving skill, but the engineering that went into that vehicle allowed him for his first time to go out there and run an 11.2. There are very few cars pre-production that come out of the factory to the dealerships that can run sub 12. This car can run sub 11, and you brought it at almost 2,000 feet elevation to an 11.2 second and 120 plus mile an hour trap speed.
Okay, but it speaks much more to the car than to me.
I think that it's a combination. You know, maybe you missed your calling. Maybe you need to now go in and start doing your drag racing. Down in Homestead in Miami, I know there's drag strips. You now can go down there and start, coming out there and driving for people.
Getting more into the car itself. Okay, we know the numbers. You told us about the second generation Eaton TVS supercharger.
Yep.
Now, some of the diehards will say, why not a proper clutch pedal manual transmission? I'm thinking, okay, can a traditional manual handle the torque? As far as, can the clutch handle it? Or people don't want manuals anymore?
So when the Ford Performance team was developing this vehicle, and it's kind of like a lot like Carroll Shelby. If you remember the videos that Carroll did in the 60s, he'd start out his commercials and says, Carroll Shelby is my name and performance is my business. Right? Carroll didn't necessarily care whether it was a manual or an automatic transmission. He didn't care what the material was made out of your rotors or your calipers. What Carroll wanted was more of the performance out of that vehicle. So when you are looking to develop a car that could do in a sub 11 second quarter mile, 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds, and also be the fastest production road course Mustang ever, you want to grab whatever equipment will get you there. And what helps us get there is that Tremec 7-speed dual clutch transmission. Because I'm a decent driver, right? If you do a bell curve, I'm right about the average. Not too bad, not too good, but I have fun and I feel like I'm fast, right? If I'm sitting there with the clutch and I have to reach in, push my pedal in, also then grab the gear shifter and hope I'm at the right RPM at the right spot on the track to get out of that curve onto the straightaway and start spinning it out, what the DCT does, in that second that it takes me, in the blink of an eye, 80 milliseconds, that transmission will not only shift, but find the right RPM for the conditions on the track to get you out the fastest. So when you talk about, hey, is it torque, is it customers changing, had nothing to do with that. Go back to what the basics of Carroll said. My name is Carroll Shelby, performance is my business. That car does the best with the dual clutch transmission on both the road course, the drag strip, and even while you're driving on the street. Now, for those of you who still love the third pedal, and I love it, right? I just absolutely love it. The 2020 Shelby GT350 that has 526 horsepower, 5.2 liter, naturally aspirated, flat plane crank, that has a Tremec manual transmission in it. Now, if you want a manual transmission, you can still go out and buy the GT350. If you want the all-out performance beast, which is the 2020 Shelby GT500, you want that 7-speed dual clutch transmission that was developed by Tremec specifically for this car.
Sounds like the best of both worlds. And speaking of your position, I notice it's Mustang and Shelby. Okay, the GT350 and the GT500 are official Ford models, built in Ford plants in Flat Rock, Michigan to be exact. But Shelby, from what I understand, offers a plethora of Mustangs. You got the Super Snake,
yep,
the 1000, and I've seen quite a few Raptors and trucks breathed on. Tell us more about it.
So if you think about it, when Carroll was still with us, Carroll was working on the development of the Shelby GT500s that from 2007 through 2014. After Carroll passed away, the relationship with Shelby continued. It evolved a little bit because Carroll wasn't necessarily there with us anymore. He was with us in spirit, but maybe not physically. So as we developed those cars, those Shelby GT350s and 500s, those are built at Flat Rock Assembly Plant in Michigan under the Ford pre-title, where we licensed the name Shelby from Shelby. Now, that car still has to live up to the performance attributes that made Carroll famous. Now, Shelby American, that we had our dinner here at the museum, the Heritage Center in Las Vegas, those folks there modify Mustangs and F-Series in a post-title basis. So say when you buy your Mustang GT and 460 horsepower just isn't enough for you. You buy your car at your dealer, you ship it down here to Shelby American, and they'll put on a Ford Performance blower that'll take it over 600 horsepower, change the suspension, put on those Shelby stripes, because we've been earning our stripes here since 1962, and they'll do brakes and tires and make that a true Shelby Mustang. The ones that, like the GT350s and GT500s come down here, Shelby will modify those to your individual taste, so that you can get a little bit of the Shelby Las Vegas magic along with the Shelby magic that comes at the Flat Rock Assembly Plant. Now, the pickup trucks. So, as you know, Ford sells quite a few F-150s a year. And there's a certain number of those people who want it for more than just driving back and forth from a construction and commercial basis. If you want an all-out performance truck, the Shelby American team will sell probably about 500 this year of the Shelby F-150s that is pre-title and is 50 state emissions compliant. And then you can actually put blowers on after you do it to take it over 750 horsepower, because that's what you need in a pickup truck, is to actually go there. The Raptors are developed for the Shelby Baja Raptor. That one has over 750 horsepower, and as you saw in there, wheels, tires, suspension changes, all those things that maybe Ford Motor Company couldn't do, but Joaquin, you might want in your Raptor.
Now, What's the ratio now, given the way the market's gone, of pickup trucks to Mustangs that you're selling right now?
Yeah, so for Ford Motor Company, we sell, literally hundreds of thousands of F-Series a year. And Mustangs, as we said, we had 113,000 new Mustang owners in 2019. So you can imagine that's, 200,000 to lots of hundreds of thousands. We sell more trucks as Ford Motor Company than we do Mustangs. Well, the same thing is now happening with Gary Patterson and the Shelby American team. They're selling about 80% trucks and about 20% Mustangs. So that love of the Shelby performance is not platform agnostic, right? What it really is if you have that heart and passion that you want that Shelby performance, from a pickup truck to a Mustang to a two-seat Cobra, you can get it at Shelby American and from their team there.
Okay, now we have the SEMA show coming up in roughly a week or so?
Yeah, about a couple of weeks, yeah.
You have anything cooking?
So I'm sure that there will be some fun things that Gary Patterson and the Shelby American team, they always delight out at SEMA, either Ford out front or inside the SEMA display. You should stay tuned, come visit, and I'm sure they'll have something to show.
No clues or hints at this time?
I think that they're going to have something there that'll surprise you.
Now I'm going to play Armchair Product Planner.
Okay.
One of my favorite games. And I'm going to ask about certain maybe omissions, if you will, on the Shelby lineup. First off, you go back in the history and you see a good number of Shelby Mustang convertibles. Shelby GT350 and GT500 in their latest iterations. Coupe only. Might we be seeing Shelby convertibles down the line?
Yeah, we don't talk about future products, but what I will tell you is when you're developing that all-out performance car, right, the GT350 was the fastest production car Mustang that we had produced up until this Shelby GT500. So when the men and women were developing that car, those fastest production cars don't happen to have a convertible top that drops down. So with the men and women focusing on the performance of the vehicle, we're really happy with the 2020 Shelby lineup.
Okay, but that doesn't sound like an unequivocal no.
Right now, the 2020 Shelby GT500 and the 2020 Shelby GT350 and 350R come in coupe only.
Okay. Now, with a crossover crazy world we're living in, and with the Explorer going to a rear-wheel drive platform, has there been any clamor or anybody said, hey, why don't you do something with the Explorer?
So right now, if you think of the Ford Performance lineup, we showed a picture at the presentation of that flying V, right? Down woodward, led by the Ford GT, GT500 on one side, GT350 on the other side, Raptor behind it, and then the wings of the flying V were our Edge ST and our Explorer ST. That new Explorer ST has over 400 horsepower with change in suspension, brakes, wheels, tires, calibration. If you want that all-out performance SUV, you have two flavors to choose from, Edge ST and Explorer ST. And I bet you, if you called up the guys, it called up Gary and Vince at Shelby American and said, I just bought myself an Explorer ST, they might be able to find some things to do to it.
How about the Ranger?
So right now, the Ranger is not part of the Ford Performance lineup. We're always looking for the next performance products to work on. Dave Parasak back in 2015, when we announced the Ford Performance Group, said that there would be 12 new performance models from 2015 to 2020, and we've delivered on that. So we haven't talked about the future. We're always looking for performance vehicles to modify in the Ford Performance world, and you need to stay tuned if you're a performance junkie like me.
Finally, bringing this full circle, what sort of feedback have you gotten from my fellow journalists and from people that are here that have sampled the GT500?
We have had an overwhelming response. We're so happy that the journalists took the time to come out here. We hope that we led a program that demonstrated the product capabilities from the mountain drive, the road course, and the drag strip. And I think everybody that I've spoken to at the dinners had a pretty big smile on their face after they left. So we're hoping we're meeting their expectations.
Let me throw my 2 cents in. That was the most fun I've had with my clothes on. Why I don't want.
I love that. So right after this, what we're doing here in our structure, the track tour structure that's over here on our right. We are bringing in, after the media is done today, tomorrow morning we're bringing in Mustang clubs and Shelby clubs. Tomorrow afternoon we're bringing in our Shelby dealers. Then Monday morning I'm bringing in current owners. And then Monday afternoon, I'm bringing in competitive performance vehicle customers, so they get to experience a much smaller version of what you just did, but they'll get a chance to drive it on the road course, drive it on the drag strip, and learn all about the innovation and technology, so hopefully they'll want to buy one.
A little reminder that the Shelby Mustang GT500 is now the most powerful factory pony car you can buy.
That is absolutely 100% accurate.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jim.
Thank you so much, and we're so glad to have you here.